Hello everyone, I am Atreya Kidambi and today I am going to explain about the food crisis that we face due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So let's get started. The impact of coronavirus on world economy and India is going to have devastating consequences for millions of people worldwide who are living below the poverty line. The world economy may lose more than $8 trillion due to shutdown of cities and countries. $8 trillion? That's a lot of money to lose. Moving on to the impact it created on India's agriculture. But the truth is, India is not immune to this impact as it is part of the global economic order. India's agriculture is 16% of its GDP, and it too went through real tough time during COVID-19. Have a look at this. The timing of the lockdown from March 25th to coincided with peak farm activity between April and June. It also hit fruit season and summer rain-fed crop season as well. So moving on to the global food security and price after COVID-19. But before we proceed, the topics we're going to cover here are the effect on food security and price, effect on imports and exports, effect on unemployment, effect on daily wage migrant workers, and effects from the UN World Food Programme. So coming to the effect on global food security and price, India is having a stockpile of 60 million tons of food grains, and the world too has enough stockpiles of food grains. But the resulting lockdown will result in disruption of food production and distribution. Take the example of the COVID-19 food price monitor, which was implemented in South Asia, Africa, and south of the Sahara. This serves as a temperature check for market conditions for stable and non-stable food at the local level. It's used to measure the food prices because it strongly influences farmers, traders, consumers, and processors, and because the prices are sensitive to shocks like bad harvest or, like in today's context, disruptions caused by the COVID-19 situation. So for the poor who spend most of their income on food, the price increase may put their food security at risk. Spikes and supply disruptions like these can be monitored using this kind of case. So here's an example which was implemented in 3 places in Africa: Burundi, Rwanda, and Uganda, and taking 5 commodity types: maize, wheat, rice, green peas, and millets. So from this monitor we can observe that the price alerts are either mostly from a high increase, which is over 15%, or there's a price decrease, which is less than 0%. Moving on to the effect on imports and exports. The shortage of pesticides, animal feed, and fertilizers will increase costs of farming and risk of bad harvests. Some countries may impose export bans on certain food grains and fruits that will increase the prices in other countries, and some will stockpile food grains by imports. So what's the effect on unemployment? This will result in increase of prices as much as 25%. The nervousness of some countries arises due to falling growth, rising unemployment, rising government fiscal deficits, will force a trade-off between saving lives and protecting livelihoods. So what's the effect on daily wage migrant workers? The heart-wrenching plight of the migrant workers, who are the most affected in developing countries, including India, who are torn between lost jobs and separation from loved ones, will suffer most when the food prices skyrocket due to various reasons. So coming to a few facts from the UN World Food Programme. The United Nations World Food Programme estimated that there would be 265 million people who would face acute shortage by the end of 2020, as compared to 135 million people before this crisis. So now we'll take a look at the global food security and price before COVID-19, shall we? So even before COVID-19, the food prices were about to surge due to various factors such as climate change. African swine fever wiped out 1/4 of world population of pigs last year. That has increased food grain prices by 15% in China, and recent locust blight has destroyed crops from Egypt to India. On top of these calamities, the COVID-19 is amplifying the risk of spike in food prices around the world, especially in developing countries. The panic buying and food hoarding has occurred in cities around the world after the virus outbreak. So what is the cause of this pandemic? The cause of this pandemic is animal and bird infection, from bats to pangolins to humans. human has been indiscriminately killing animals, birds, and sea creatures for consumption or for amusement. Almost all of the viruses that have surfaced for the last 100 years, or even more, are through animals, birds, or seafood, and 70% of the emerging infectious diseases, also known as EID, have their source in animals. This transmission of pathogens to humans is occurring due to consumption of exotic meat by humans, rapidly changing environment, deforestation, and rapid population growth. So now what we consider is that veganism is a boon during COVID-19. The impact of coronavirus has made many people forego meat, as the fear of death has made humans turn towards vegetarianism or veganism. This is the right time governments must invest more on agriculture, as the consumption will grow rapidly. So the global impact of agriculture is as explained as followed. The COVID-19 virus made a severe impact on agricultural produce and good grain production. When governments start easing lockdown restrictions, they must find ways by which more thrust is given to agricultural sector. Modern agricultural methods of farming and natural fertilizers must be encouraged rather than chemically infected pesticides and fertilizers. So talking about the government loans, the immediate impact of this virus is farmers lost their revenues and they have to be given new loans by the government to ensure new crop season will continue uninterruptedly. If the loans are not offered on time, then they will be forced to take loans from unorganized sector with high interest rates, and that will be devastating to their families. So what I want to explain is that with active support from governments and experts, the increase in agricultural output and food grain will ensure that people will be persuaded to turn to vegetarian diet or veganism, as that will reduce humans contacting deadly viruses from pathogens of animals, birds, and sea creatures. So the conclusion of what I wanted to convey is that in this video, we have explained the food crisis that we can potentially encounter due to this pandemic in the near future in terms of costs, availability, sustainability, environmental impact, and nutritional values, etc. by comparing the pre-COVID, COVID, and post-COVID era in terms of food availability in all these conditions. We have given statistics and facts and suggested people to be convinced that choosing the vegan path is the way forward. I also request you all to encourage others to do research on any new finding about food and health and study facts about food and health on an ongoing basis. So, spread the word that going vegan is the right way to go during this time, and in a permanent basis, going vegan is the best way to go. Thank you very much for actively listening patiently to my presentation. This is Atreya from Innovation for Impact signing off. I hope to see you all soon in another video. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.